Hey everyone, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. So you may have seen my favorite books of 2018 video, and this is kind of along the same lines, but this is most disappointing books of 2018. So these are some books that I not necessarily didn't like, definitely not hated. I never tend to really hate something. Because of my process of picking up books, I think I'm pretty good at only picking up books that I'm going to like. However, obviously, some of them fall through the cracks and I might be disappointed in them, or I might not like them as much as I thought I would, or maybe the hype surrounding it was too much and I was expecting a lot more than what I got. So there's not a lot in this video, but I just want to go through some of them quickly and just tell you my thoughts and why they were disappointing. And that's not to say I wouldn't recommend you read these books, because obviously all of this is subjective, and just because I found them disappointing does not mean you might not love them. But I just thought it would be interesting to also talk about the books that I didn't enjoy quite as much this year, or in 2018. So the first one I want to talk about is a middle grade novel, and that is The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. I think I've pronounced that right, although let's face it, probably not. So the concept of this just sounded so amazing, but ultimately I think I was a bit let down, more so because of the genre than anything. It's a middle grade, so obviously I'm not a middle grade aged person, but that's not to say that I can't enjoy middle grade. I guess I was expecting a little bit more. But the premise of this is fantastic. It's about two best friends who are wildly different and who both go to magic schools. One is a magic school for princesses and one is a magic school for witches, so sort of the evil, bad people and good people. But they get switched. So the good girl goes to the evil witches school and the seemingly bad girl goes to the princesses school. But I think it's mostly the age group that this book was meant for, and I don't fall into that, and I just expected more than what I got. But it's definitely a fun story, and if you are a bit younger than me, or if you have friends or family who are around the target age for this book, then I think they will definitely really enjoy it, because it is a really, really fun story. Just not for me, sadly, and I think there's 4 or 5 more books in this series, so it's quite a long series, but unfortunately I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. So the next book is a adult fantasy novel that was sent to me by the publisher / author, and which I enjoyed quite a bit. I was just left a little bit disappointed in it, and so I want to be honest with you guys and talk about it anyway. It doesn't matter that it was sent to me. I wanted to include it anyway in this video, and that is The Oyster Thief by Sonia Faruqi. So I really liked the world building in this and the potential this had. I liked the plot in the sense that it was this kind of quest adventure that these characters go on, and there's a lot to like in this book. And again, I've talked about this book and probably all the books in this video in more depth in some of my previous videos, so I'll link all my wrap-ups and things like that down in the description if you want to get a bit more detail into these books. Yeah, I was just a bit disappointed in some of the choices that were made in this book. By that I mean not necessarily the characters' choices, but the writing choices. The way some of the plot points were solved and things like that, I didn't necessarily agree with from a writing perspective, and I felt like it could have been handled differently. I don't know if for better or for worse, but from my perspective, I think I would have done it differently, and so it really kind of bothered me. But to explain a bit about this book, this is about an underwater civilization, and it's about a mermaid and a merman, and the main character from this, called Coraline, she is on a quest for this valuable elixir that is said to exist in this underwater world, and this male character, who used to be human but now is merman, kind of falls into her quest, and then they go on this quest together, and that part of the book was really, really cool. So there's a lot of things that I enjoyed from this book. It's just, as a whole, I was left a little bit disappointed, therefore it is in this video. The next book I want to talk about is a book I read on my Kindle, so I will insert a picture of the cover right here, and that is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. Menon. So When Dimple Met Rishi is a dual perspective book, and it follows the perspective of Dimple and Rishi, and they both go to a coding camp. So after they finish high school and before they start university, they both go to this web development camp. And she goes there because she is really passionate about coding, and she also kind of feels the need to escape her very conservative Indian family. The only reason he goes there is to court her and to make her fall in love with him because their parents have arranged a marriage for them. She doesn't know about this. And yeah, the story kind of follows him trying to court Dimple and all of the mishap that happens because of that. I really did enjoy this book. I was just left a little bit disappointed because it was a lot more about their relationship than I expected going into it, and I think that's more my fault than anything. Also because the setting was one of the things that intrigued me about it and one of the things that made me pick it up, and yet it was kind of completely brushed off, or at least done in a way where I didn't feel like it was realistic, because they go to this web development camp to make an app. There is virtually no description of that going on, and if there is, it's very unrealistic. And she's supposed to be really passionate about this, and she's supposed to be really good at it, and yet she barely ever talks about anything specific, just in very general, kind of cringy ways. Like it made me cringe a lot because this is what I do for a living, and so I was expecting to see a lot more themes of that in this book, and there were none, or they were really badly handled in my opinion. So that's mostly why I was disappointed in this book. But it is a really cute romance if you're into that kind of thing, and the minority representation is very, very good. So definitely recommend it. It's just, personally, I was left a little bit disappointed. The next book on this list is actually the book I think I gave the least stars to, I gave this 2 stars, and I very rarely give books 2 stars. And that's kind of, I didn't really like it. I think this is the only book on this list that I can really say I didn't like it. All the rest I enjoyed, but there were things that I was let down on, or I expected more and I was let down. But this I just genuinely did not enjoy. And it's quite a short book, and it took me a long time to read, and that is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and this is actually quite a popular YA thriller, but I just think it just wasn't for me. I did not enjoy the characters, I did not enjoy the drama that happened, and I know a lot of people really like this book, but unfortunately it just wasn't for me. So this is about a girl and her family, an extended family, who own this little island. It's a private island, and they go there every single summer. So yeah, there's a lot of weird things that happen and a lot of secrets. It's supposed to be thrilling, obviously it's a thriller, but I didn't care, so And the last book on this list is another YA contemporary, and that is The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by this person right here, which I'm gonna stop trying to pronounce because I never get it right. This author wrote Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which is one of my favorite YA contemporary books, and it is in my top 10 YA contemporary books of all time video, which I will link down below if you're interested. So obviously I was very excited to read his next book, but ultimately I was let down. And it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what about this I didn't like. I think in this case it was more the fact that I loved his first book so much that I really thought I was going to love this one just as much. And while reading it, I knew I wasn't enjoying it at that level, and I just kind of was left disappointed. I expected more. Again, that's probably more my fault, and the fact that I really liked his first book and not the author's fault necessarily, and I think it's a really nice book. My expectations were high, and the results were not as high. So that's why it's on this list, not because it's bad. None of these books are bad. I don't think that. So those were my most disappointing books of 2018. They weren't that many, to be fair. I definitely read a lot more books that I really enjoyed versus books that let me down. So that's why there's not so many on this list, obviously. But do let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were on them. And again, if you liked any of these books, or if you've never read them but you were interested in reading them, then don't let me being disappointed in them deter you from picking them up, because everything is subjective. And just because I didn't like them as much as I thought I would does not mean that you won't. Yeah, but all in all, it was a pretty successful reading year for me, I think. Just from the small number of books that I didn't even not like, but I was just disappointed in. There was only one book that got 2 stars for me. Everything else got 3 and up. So really, I think that's quite a good reading year. And I'm very excited to see what 2019 brings in terms of reads for me. That was it from me today, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with a new video.